Good evening. This is the April 30th meeting of the Newcastle Zoning Board of Appeals. Before we have our regular agenda tonight, we have two resolutions carried forward from our last meeting, which we will act on first, and then we'll get into our regular agenda. First resolution we had is the Letterman Revocable Trust, and we'll read the required excerpts from it. Probably want to do that? Thank you.
Resolution dated Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. Whereas Lawrence Letterman Revocable Trust, the applicant, owner of the premises known as 783 King Street, Chappaqua, New York, which is located in the R2A district, submitted an application and supporting materials to the Zoning Board of Appeals of the town of Newcastle Zoning Board in June of 2023 for a 15,019.05 square foot development coverage variance related to the construction of a subterranean addition to an existing bathroom to make it handicap accessible. Now therefore be it.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, and we just wanna reflect that the resolution that we're reading into the record is we have a written resolution as modified dated Wednesday, April 30th, and this resolution is subject to the terms and conditions of the written resolution as set forth more fully in the modified resolution.
I thought we were gonna do that afterwards, but do it. Just say as our, if I were writing this, I would say, as stated by our counsel.
Now therefore be it resolved that the application to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Newcastle by Lawrence Letterman Revocable Trust for 62 square foot plus or minus development coverage variance related to the construction of a subterranean addition to an existing bathroom on the property commonly known as 783 King Street, Chappaqua, New York. Said property being designated on the tax maps of Newcastle as section 108.5, block 1, lot 4 is hereby granted subject to the satisfaction of the following conditions. 1, applicant shall record any easements deemed necessary by and acceptable to the town, its council, to effectuate the provisions and intent of the stormwater management plans, as well as any deeds and conveyance documents deemed necessary or desirable by the applicant in consultation with the town and its council for and related to such easements. 2, applicant shall have 12 months to start construction and 24 months to complete it. And general conditions. 1, the approval of any variance is granted by the zoning board in accordance with and subject to those facts shown on the plans submitted and, if applicable, as amended at or prior to this hearing, as here and above recited or set forth. 2, any approval of a variance by the zoning board is limited to the specific variance requested, but only to the extent that such approval is granted herein and subject to those conditions, if any, upon which such approval is conditioned, which are set forth here, which are herein set forth. 3, the board gives no approval of any building plans, including without limitation the accuracy and structural integrity thereof of the applicant, but the same have been submitted to the board solely for informational and verification purposes relative to any variances being requested. 4, a building permit as well as any other necessary permits must be obtained within a reasonable period of time following the filing of this decision and prior to undertaking of any construction contemplated in this decision. To the extent any variance granted herein is subject to any conditions, the building department shall now be obligated to issue any necessary permits where such condition imposed should, in sole judgment of the building department, be first complied with as contemplated hereunder. Occupancy will not be made until and unless a certificate of occupancy has been issued by the building department of the town of Newcastle, which legally permits such occupancy.
I'll make a motion, we approve the resolution as amended and presented tonight.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Next, we have a motion carried from last meeting. We had a temporary motion. This is a permanently drafted motion by our attorneys for the Meredith application, and we'll read part of that into the record.
Resolution dated Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. Whereas Christopher Meredith and Laurel Meredith, applicants of 14 Wolf's Hill Road, Chappaqua, New York, submitted an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Newcastle for an 18-foot side variance, a 2,812.59 square foot building coverage variance, and a 296 square foot FAR for the renovation of an existing non-conforming barn to convert it to an office/pool house. And now therefore be it resolved that the application made by Christopher Meredith and Laurel Meredith of 14 Wolf's Hill Road, Chappaqua, to the zoning board for an 18-foot side yard variance, 2,812.59 square foot development coverage variance, and a 296 square foot FAR variance for the renovation of an existing non-conforming barn to convert it to an office pool house on the property commonly known as 14 Wolf's Hill Road, Chappaqua, New York. Said property having been designated on the tax maps of Newcastle as section 92.7, block 2, lot 37, and section 92.7, block 2, lot 38, is hereby granted subject to the satisfaction of the following conditions. Applicant shall file and complete a re-subdivision with the Town of Newcastle Planning Board to merge section 92.7 block 2 lot 37 and section 92.7 block 2 lot 38, and shall comply with all requirements set out by the planning board with respect thereto, including the filing of a revised subdivision plat or other final recorded documents as may be deemed necessary by the planning board and any other agency with jurisdiction. The applicant shall have 6 months to start construction and 12 months to complete. The applicants must file an as-built survey upon completion of the new office/pool house. General conditions. 1, the approval of any variance is granted by the zoning board in accordance with subject to those facts shown on the plans submitted, if applicable, and amended prior to this hearing, herein above recited or set forth. 2, any approval of variance for the zoning by the zoning board is limited to the specific variance requested, but only to the extent that such approval is granted herein and subject to those conditions, if any, upon which approval was conditioned, which herein set forth. 3, the board gives no approval of any building plans, including without limitation the accuracy, the structural integrity therefore or thereof of the applicant, but same have been submitted to the board solely for informational and verification purposes relative to any variances being requested. 4, a building permit, as well as any other necessary permits, must be obtained within a reasonable period of time following the filing of this decision, and therefore the undertaking of any construction contemplated in this decision. To the extent any variance granted herein is subject to any conditions, the building department shall not be obligated to issue any necessary permits where any such condition imposed should, in the sole judgment of the building department, be first complied with, contemplated hereunder. Occupancy shall not be made until and unless a certificate of occupancy is issued by the building department of the town of Newcastle, which legally permits such occupancy.
Just before we proceed, just one simple correction to the whereas clause, as was read into the record. It mentioned a 2,812.59 square foot. It's a development coverage variance, not a building coverage variance. So just wanted to, make sure the record reflected that.
So noted, thank you. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just one other thing. I just want to reiterate what I said the last time, which is the resolution as read into the record is a partial resolution, and is subject to the full written resolution, as will also be part of the record, and is subject to all the terms and conditions of the full written resolution dated April 30th, 2025.
Once again noted, thank you. I will make a motion that we approve the motion as presented by our colleague and as amended by our legal counsel.
Okay, I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Okay, now we can get into our regular meeting agenda. Public hearings of Reynolds. Will you just
Reynolds.
call that one? Oops. Thank you, Mike.
Good evening.
Hi, could you tell us for the record your name and what it is that you are seeking?
Yes, my name is Emily Reynolds and I'm seeking a 30-foot variance for a parking spot in the front of my home.
Okay.
My presentation is verbal, but anyone is welcome to look at the survey and the application.
And could you tell us how long that parking spot has been there approximately?
Parking spot has been there for more than 2 years.
More than 2 years. Okay, and the reasons that you would want us to know that you need this area, this variance,
Yes, if you don't mind, I'll just read my statement.
please do.
Good evening, my name is Emily Reynolds. This is my first town meeting, so thank you for having me. I'm a married working mother of 2 and I moved to Chappaqua 2.5 years ago. My husband and I own 16 Roaring Brook Road, which is between Horace Greeley High School and the traffic light at Bedford Road. Shortly after we moved in, we hired a landscaping company to add a gravel parking spot off to the side of our driveway. I had no idea that this spot was too close to the street to comply with town code, but I'm grateful for the opportunity, genuinely, given to me here tonight to legalize this parking spot. A second spot that we added does, as I understand it, comply with town code because it's so close to our house. 5 people live in our home and we have a 1-car garage. This parking spot is essential for the safety of our 2 toddlers. This parking spot eliminates any need to constantly move cars back and forth and allows drivers to turn around in the driveway so that they can merge onto Roaring Brook Road without incident. This space means less movement, which means less danger for our 2 girls. The spot has been in place for more than 2 years without incident. A turnaround spot even closer to the street has been in place for more than a decade, so it predates our ownership of the home, and that spot has also been there without incident. Any aesthetic complaints have been mitigated by a custom cedar privacy fence that shields any parked cars from every one of our neighbors. We are respectfully requesting a 30-foot variance from the town code in order to legalize the gravel parking spot we added in March of 2023.
Okay, so, another question. I'm looking at your site plan and I think I know what the answer is, but for the record, I'm gonna have you state it. Is there any other place on the property that you could access to use other than this parking area? Is there any way to get to the side or back of the house that would give you areas to park your car without having to request a variance?
I don't know, but we could perhaps park next to the garage.
Okay. I was really asking you a leading question because next to your garage is your AC and your walkway, and I don't see how you could put a car there, but I just for the record wanted to get in there that you do have a very small piece of property and really narrow. So we'll take that under consideration.
Yes, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to address this application?
No hands are raised.
Okay, we have one hand raised in the back, please come forward. Can you state your name, please, for the record?
My name is Robert Lewis. I live at 2 Roaringbrook Road, just to the east of the applicant. So the turnaround space was put in place at the suggestion of Bob Cioli about 15 years ago. It was done at the when the they were the Fosters who lived there at that time. There have been, since we've lived in our property for about 28 years, there have been 5 people living at 16 Roaringbrook Road. And most of the people who have lived there have had 1 or 2 cars. The Reynolds, I guess, have more cars. For some reason, they have at this time as many as 5 cars parked in their driveway. Right now, I guess they have more like 3 or 4 cars.
I have to dispute that.
No,
Sorry?
I have to dispute that.
Okay, well, get your turn.
Okay, so they put up a fence recently that's quite lovely, and I'm very happy that they did that because the cars that they now have parked immediately next to the property line are, in our opinion, somewhat unsightly, and we would just as soon not see all those cars. Most of the time, let's say there are something like 2 or 3 cars right there, and those cars are in what you would call the front yard. The space that the Fosters put in as a turnaround, they wanted to put in as a parking space, and Mr. Cioli made clear that he suggested to them that it would not fly as a parking space. The required 9 by 18 dimensions of a parking space were too much. They didn't work with that driveway, but he would certainly accept a turnaround space of slightly smaller dimensions for safety reasons. I think, would reluctantly accept the additional spaces. I say reluctantly because we still don't love the idea of having all those cars in the front yard. And we would ask that the zoning board of appeals would put some conditions that would allow for some that would ensure that maintenance of the fence be kept up in the future. Given that the property turns over so frequently, how can we be assured that the next owner of the property isn't going to let the fence deteriorate? Fences that we've seen need to be replaced as often as every 3 to 5 years. Now, there was the people who occupied the property not prior, I guess it was prior to the Reynolds. They just let the fence go and the fence fell over. There was a fence there before they came and it fell over into our property and we just pushed it back over and it fell into the yard. It was a post and rail fence and people do that. But we would like to think that there would be some teeth in the provision in the appeal that would allow the town to require the owner of the property to maintain the fence after the after the Reynolds leave. So is there any way that kind of verbiage could be put into?
Absolutely, we could require the fence to be maintained in perpetuity. When you get a variance, it is in perpetuity. We can add a clause to our resolution if we so approve.
I will tell you that the fence that the Reynolds have installed is quite lovely and we were quite surprised, but they did a beautiful job with it.
Right, well, I'm sure that was gonna be one of our questions about what type of fence it was and everything. But if we determine that fence is required, we have every way to do that without problem. Okay, and other than the fence, that's gonna be your main concern. Okay, thank you for your information. Ms. Reynolds?
Just follow up that we hope not to be leaving anytime soon,
We hope to stay in town.
though I hear there's property turnover. We are happy to maintain the fence. And so that zoning board of appeals members can picture what's happening, we own 3 cars. One is always in the garage or off the property because it's being driven around. One is usually at the train parking lot because one of us is at work. And so during daylight hours, there's typically 1 car in the driveway.
One question on the fence.
Yes.
I'm gonna defer to our building department first. The fence that was installed, did it require a permit?
No, sir,
Did not require a permit.
that is correct.
So it's in there and without all legalized and everything.
It's a legal installation, yes.
Good. So since you don't have any record in town of the fence you put in and the type you put in, I'm gonna ask that you submit to us description of the fence and the particulars of it so that we could know what we would wanna do with it in the future. We could go forward with this and leave a caveat in the motion that the fence has to be described to the building department in whatever manner they desire. And that would be subject to our approval, okay? Other than that, does the board have any questions or any comments?
I just have one question, on the plan, and forgive my ignorance if I'm asking something obvious. I see 3 gravel parking areas,
Yes,
and which one is it all?
the middle spot does not comply with town
Okay.
code.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
No.
Okay, I'll move we close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Oh, I can do it, I can do it. Let me just get my papers organized there. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the application for the 16 Roaring Brook Road property to legalize an existing gravel parking area requiring a front yard setback variance of 30 feet. For the following reasons. The granting of the variance will not create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood. The benefits sought by or achieved by cannot be achieved by any other method. In this instance, the requested variance is somewhat substantial but not excessively so. There'll be no adverse effect on the physical environment or conditions in the neighborhood. This is a self-created hardship and that the applicant knew or should have known that this was going to require a variance. Although it's a self-created hardship, the benefit to the applicant will far outweigh any detriment to the town or to the neighborhood. Do we need a survey on that fence, Tom? Since
We
we're
have a survey already, sir.
on gravel, but we're
Yes.
not, what about the fence?
The fence does not need a survey.
Even if we put it in our approval rating or anything? If we're gonna have this thing maintained forever, should be the location, my belief is that the location should be specified for future reference.
In that respect, Mr. Chairman, I would request that we specify the fence on the east side of the property be recognized,
Correct.
not the whole
Yeah, 'cause
property.
that's where the area, that's where the property, okay,
And yes, we can have a survey, please.
okay. The approval of the application shall be subject to the applicant providing with our building department with a required survey of the east side of the fencing and a description of the type of material used in the fencing and its construction. And this also shall be subject to the approval of this application. It shall be part of the approval rating, part of the approval that the fence shall be maintained in its present state in perpetuity.
Mr. Chairman, if I could suggest that in the event that a replacement fence is needed, it would be a solid fence of at least 6 feet.
Which it is now.
Right, but I'm just
I'm saying to
in
me-
the event
no,
that this
I
current
have-
fence was needed for whatever reason, was damaged or needed to be
No,
replaced.
that's why you're our lawyer.
Think of worst case scenarios.
Okay, and such fence shall be equal to what's there, and it shall be a solid fence 6 feet in height. And for those reasons, we should approve.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb. Kathleen Darazan.
You have your variance, good luck.
Thank you. Pines Bridge Realty, LLC.
Good evening, everybody. My name is William Beshrat. I'm representing Pines Bridge Realty for the requested front yard variance for the proposed addition and renovation of the existing house. This house is not pre-existing non-conforming home regarding setbacks and the size of the property. What we are proposing is to add a fourth bedroom onto the house above the garage without increasing the footprint of the house in that area. We are cantilever in the front for two reasons. We need a little bit of the space on the inside, and we also need it for aesthetics. I have a copy of the elevation that was submitted. see what it looks like. At this stage, like I said, this addition is going over the existing garage and we have no other place to locate it without digging foundation, and even if we locate it anywhere else, it still will need a variance. So there's no other place to locate it without needing a variance. The existing property as it is pre-existing non-conforming, and there's no other land available for us to purchase and make this variance go away. The addition will make the house compatible with the homes. It's actually smaller than the other homes around it, and this will bring it up to par with the houses in the neighborhood. Will not create any negative effect on the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, I think it will create a positive effect because the house is gonna get complete renovation with a new siding, new windows, a new roof, etc. And then it will look more modern, more today versus 1960s when it was.
So what you're saying is you're going to add, just go on top of your garage.
Yes.
And if you were to go anywhere else, and still you just increase the non-conformity, so.
Correct. The garage is existing there, we're going right above it right now, it's only like a regular small little roof on top of it.
Yeah, and I know it's one of the smaller homes in the neighborhood too, I know that neighborhood. So I don't see any problem with this application at all. Is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to address this application?
You have one hand.
We have one hand. I think there's nobody in our audience, so can you put that one on, please?
Hello, pleased to meet you all. Thank you very much for inviting us to join this call. We just had a query really. We're next door neighbors, and Mr. Ernie Tartaglioni, he's been a really real gentleman. So he came over to ask us if he would be, we'd be okay with him taking down some of the trees, etc. And we obviously want to cooperate with him as much as possible. Now, just in the process of, Mr. Ernie carrying out the works, one thing that we noticed was that maybe our privacy might be a little lower than before, because the trees which used to separate the two houses are no longer there. So, and then we also have this like jacuzzi kind of thing, which was here. And so, and because Mr. Ernie's house is on an elevated field compared to ours, they can look down. And so, we think that maybe our privacy will be a bit lower. So really, without trying to put a spanner in the works or anything like that, I just wanted to understand what essentially my rights would be if we felt that we were a little uncomfortable. Like, for example, if we wanted to restore that level of privacy which existed, then is our only course of action to plant some trees on our end, basically, so that it serves as like a screen or a blind. I actually didn't really know what options were available. So yeah, hopefully that gets the point across. So we don't want to be uncooperative. We actually want Mr. Ernie to move forward and have everything that he would like. But just from our perspective, we just wanted to understand what our options were.
Okay. Can you address the concern about
Yes,
the trees?
the trees, there are just a couple of them on the east side of the property, which I'm assuming the gentleman's house is here because there is a road on the other side, so those trees are basically dead. I mean, they really dangerous. There will be some landscaping done to the property and a few trees will be added. The addition is in the opposite side of the house. On this side, there's hardly any windows, so the privacy of the neighbor is protected really from how the house exists. The addition, like I said, is on the other side of the property, and That's the variance in question is on the addition itself. The trees, like I said, they basically that, I mean, you know, you see them like, whoa, they're too close to the house, they have to go. Additional trees will be planted in between the neighbors, which is, you know, I don't see the Ernie, the owner, having any problem with that.
Okay, you look very expectant, do you have something to say on that?
I'm good, you're
So you're planning to plant, what kind of trees are they, deciduous or evergreen?
They're deciduous,
Deciduous.
the existing ones, yeah, and
And you-
they're deciduous.
What are you planning to put back?
Most likely, we don't know yet, we haven't really decided on the landscape, and the house when it's all said and done is gonna be really done very nicely. And you know, landscaped, etc. There's no decision have been made on that, but there will be some landscaping done. And Ernie have already approached the neighbors to talk to them and be friendly and neighborly, and he will work something out between the two neighbors, and I'm sure the neighbor will be satisfied.
I'm confident on that too. I'm not gonna, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not gonna require any kind of specific plantings or anything because that gets into a whole nother.
It will be voluntarily planted. He wants his own house to be also you know, protected and have his own privacy. You know, this is not, you know, a commercial business where you need the exposure, what have you, it's a home and
Okay,
it will work to benefit both neighbors.
any comment on that, Mr. Park?
Yes, so if I could just confirm what I understood, we expect to have a, nice conversation and we'll just essentially work something out that works for the both of us. So there's a good solution in terms of privacy, both for Mr. Ernie and for our side as well. And essentially that will involve planting some trees, I guess, into the spots where the dense trees originally stood. Would that be the intention?
It will be within the vicinity, not exactly where they were, because one of the reasons those trees are going, because they are too close to the house. One of them is maybe like 8 feet away from the house and it's not in good shape and any windstorm will bring it down. We will be planting a buffer trees alongside the east property line, but not in the same location.
Okay, so not in the same location. And I guess in terms of what Mr. Ernie is entitled to do, is he entitled to basically not plant any trees if he chose not to?
That's correct, it's his property, when it comes to plantings, there's no town requirements as to plantings.
Okay.
I'm sure that his neighbors are going to get along.
Yeah, okay, so I get it. So whatever he chooses to do on his property is up to him. It's none of our business, basically.
Now, and the same goes the other way around, whatever you choose on your property, you're ready to do, and it's nobody else's business. So I think the two of you should get together and work it out, and I'm sure you're gonna come to
Exactly, Mr. Taglione.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you for the clarity. We just wanted to make sure that we understood what was within our rights and what wasn't. Okay, but thank you so much.
Thank you for your input. Do we have any comments from the board on this application?
I just have a question, so
Yes, sir.
You're adding a bedroom, so I assume you're adding the septic fields to this?
Yes, we are in the process with the Westchester County Health Department to add additional fields to accommodate the fourth bedroom.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No, everybody's good. I'll move and close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
I'll take
You
it,
up for
I'll
this
take
one?
this, yes, sir. I would like to make a motion that we consider the application of Pines Bridge Realty LLC in Valhalla for a 14-foot front yard variance for the following reasons. They are adding
24 feet, it was a,
Oh.
it was a mistake.
Oh, sorry, 20 feet?
It was 24 feet.
24.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
miscalculation.
24 foot.
I didn't do the math. Okay, I retract that, a 24-foot front yard variance for the following reasons. They're adding a fourth bedroom over the garage. Any other location, according to the applicant on the property, would require a variance. Therefore, this is probably the least intrusive way to add a fourth bedroom. They are making a concerted effort to ensure that the home is aesthetically pleasing and meeting the look of the local environment. The granting of the variance will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. Again, referencing the aesthetic changes that they're enhancing the house with. The benefit sought by the applicants cannot be achieved by any other feasible method, again referencing any other location on the property would require a variance. The requested variance is substantial, but again, this is probably the best recourse to add a fourth bedroom. It will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. There has been a neighbor who has expressed his concerns about trees and landscaping to ensure that their view shed is preserved. And the applicant has indicated that he'd be happy to work with the neighbors to their satisfaction. It is a self-created hardship in the respect that obviously when the property was purchased, they knew that it was pre-existing non-conforming and anything that they were going to do would require variance. Therefore, I make a motion that we grant the variance with Tom, what do we need for this?
We will need a final survey from the. Before we go any further, there is a discrepancy that we need to point out.
Okay.
On the survey submitted by Stephen F. Hull, they show a proposed deck in the rear of the house. That deck would require a side yard variance. I just wanna be clear that that's not part of the approval tonight, because it is shown on the plan set. They did not ask for that.
So your proposed permit application
It's for a
is
second floor
just for the
addition.
second floor, no
Yes.
deck, okay. Do we
This
need to add
is-
that into the resolution?
Yeah.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
If that's the case, I would request a holdover, maybe we can modify our application to include the deck with it. Somehow there was an oversight, I don't know why, and the denial letter was only for the second floor addition. And we do have a little bit of time, if it's possible to hold it over till the next meeting and we will do the changes. If we need to re-notify the neighbors, we will do so to make sure that we cover also the deck, and I can discuss the deck with you briefly right now, this way we can save time at the next meeting.
Well, we have a pretty good agenda tonight, but I'm assuming that your permit application for the second floor did not include the deck?
No, it did include the deck with it.
It does not, sir.
They didn't? Okay, I apologize, I don't know how that happened, but if it's
Okay.
possible that we
Oh,
can
yeah.
hold it over, we can modify it and then come back and take care of it that way.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in there and
Yeah,
step on your toes a little bit.
please do.
We're gonna hold off on this application, we're gonna stop in the middle of the resolution because a discrepancy has been found in the application and in the building permit application, and it was somehow the proposed deck was neglected to be included. The applicant has agreed to refile with the deck application as necessary paperwork wise, and has also agreed to re-notify the neighbors as required by our code. And we'll be back at our next meeting, which is May 28th.
Alright, thank you very much and we'll see you then.
See you then.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Wojcicki?
Hello, my name is Claudia Mas, I'm an architect, I represent the client, Svetlana Wojcicki. So we are, the project consists of adding a new garage to a house which doesn't have a garage, it's the only house on the street that doesn't have a garage, and my client wishes to have a two-car garage. We would like to ask the board for a few variances. Actually, I should really start off that one of the variances that was requested, we are not going to request, which is the development. We reconfigured the driveway so that basically we are not, we are complying with the coverage of the development. So that is something we're not going to be asking for. However, we are asking for a side setback. A side setback for the garage.
Can you carry the mic with you so that,
Oh, yeah.
no, you can just pull it out,
Yeah.
so that while you're
yeah?
describing it, the
No,
people.
because this way I can show it.
Okay, we just wanna be sure that the people on
Yes,
TV
of course.
can hear what we're
Okay.
hearing.
So that is one, and there's also an existing old shed that the client has put in like 20 years ago, and it was like on a forklift, no foundation, and it's very close to the property line. So that also needs a side yard, and that also contributes to the building coverage because it is impervious and it counts for the calculation of the building coverage. So that's it. I have this is the plan of the This is the plan of the garage, so you can see why it is the dimensions it is, which is two-car garage. And these are the drawings if anyone wants to see how it's going to look like, but mostly you are concerned with the variances of the setback and the building coverage.
Okay, so the existing house does not have a garage.
No, it doesn't.
It's necessary, okay,
And
good.
again, it's the only one on the street that doesn't have.
Is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to address this application?
No hands are raised online.
Okay, we have some in the audience here, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Kathy Gillespie. I live directly across the street from the house, and my biggest concern is that the driveway will be directly aligned with my driveway across the street. On a very narrow street, that's a big concern. They have multiple cars coming and going, and I think it seems to me that shouldn't be acceptable. Like in a narrow street like that, where you have two driveways that are directly across from one another. I mean, I've driven around looking, and I don't see that.
Can I ask a question? Sorry to interrupt, are there two driveways now like that without the structure?
No, their driveway is on the other side of where they're anticipating. And it's not, by the way, it's not the only house in the neighborhood that doesn't have a garage.
On the street, yes.
No, I'm in the street, it isn't.
There isn't. We don't have a
They don't
garage.
have a garage.
We have a carport.
So, in any case, that's my biggest concern, and I'm gonna let
I
talk about the
actually,
others.
maybe I should address this concern because
maybe you should just look at this because we have revised the configuration since what was proposed, and that's why we do not ask for coverage. And which means that now your driveway, and this is not, this is pulled from the GIS map, but basically the driveway that we are proposing is going to be very maybe few feet actually across from your driveway, because we're pulling it. It's not going to be like it was proposed straightforward, which the coverage would have been also a problem, but and it was like a very wide driveway. We are narrowing it down, and this way your driveway, which is this one, because I knew that this may come up, so I prepared this diagram
Okay,
so that can be
okay.
addressed.
I still think it's really tight, but thank you.
Good evening, my name is Greg Gonzalez. I am the owner of 38 St. John's Place, so that's the property adjacent to where the proposed garage would go. My two main concerns, obviously the setback concern for a two-car garage. So we are the only other house that does not have a garage on the street. We have a carport. And then also, just the square footage of it seems enormous to have a two-car garage in this spot for the size of the property. And I would actually appreciate if I could get an actual calculation of what the actual square footage is of the house right now. I can't seem to find anything, so that the question would then be how much more would they be going over the square footage that they've already built upon on the lot. So those are my two main concerns.
Well, to answer one of your questions, the building coverage is 2,663 feet. 2,663 feet is the reflected building coverage. And I don't know how much of that is garage, but I'm sure our architect can tell us.
So that is 2,600 is including the house already, or?
Yes, because they're adding to the existing residence.
Right, so the existing residence, again, because I'm not sure about how, what is actually filed in town. But online, when this house was for sale, it was listed, I think, at just over 2,900 square feet.
It's building coverage, not
Yeah.
lot coverage.
Okay.
Can I just ask you, understanding?
Yeah.
Did you say that you're not coming from the building and development coverage variances tonight, that there were changes?
No, so we are asking for the building, not the development. Just because we are reducing the driveway, so that is, and actually for the building coverage, the shed contributes as well, so.
The shed is included in your building
Yes,
coverage calculations.
Yes,
Which
because it
is,
needs to be.
according to my
According to
sheet
the-
here, your building coverage is less than 100 square feet over the allowable limit.
Exactly.
So to me, it's a minimal amount.
Because
They could have built as of right up to very similar to the size it is, less 100 feet, which is really a little 10 by 10 foot square, which is not gonna help you. So I understand your concern, I realize where you're coming from, but the fact of the matter is that what's there and what's proposed to be there is very similar, and the additional coverage is not going to severely be a detriment to the property. That's my opinion from the numbers I'm looking at.
Okay.
It may seem big to you now because as you're looking at these plans and these pictures and everything, but I know these properties very well, I've seen them happen in other parts of town. Once they're built, they really don't do as bad as people think they do. Okay, I'm not gonna guarantee how you're gonna feel about it, but property wise, it's not too much different than many of our requests here. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your input. Do we have any comments from the board on this one?
Can I just ask
I do have a question.
I just wanna ask the architect one other question. I do wanna know a little bit more about the driveways that are, I know you've done some work to mitigate that. I mean, are there any other ways to mitigate the concern that the resident across the street is facing?
But before we get into that,
Okay.
and I know they have a legitimate concern in their mind. But as far as I know, and our counsel is going to correct me if I'm wrong, I know of nothing in the building code or the zoning code that requires a placement of a driveway on any particular spot on the property, whether it be adjacent to another driveway, across from another driveway. Driveways can be placed almost anywhere on the property that suits the construction of the property. But if I'm wrong on that, or if there's any changes on that, I'd like our building department, our building inspector and our council to advise us on that.
I was thinking the same thing, Mr. Chairman.
There is no requirement.
Right, it's just not, it's a practical objection, but it's not a legal one.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there are constraints on distance from an intersection and line of sight visuals from a driveway. But this is a middle of the road application here.
And those constraints I'm aware of, we've dealt with them in past applications. But I've never had an application where the question was whether it faced another driveway or not, and I wasn't sure, but so you've told us that it is not legally required for them to be any separation between being across from each other.
That is correct, sir.
So your concerns are legitimate because they're your concerns. Legally and where we have to come from, there's nothing we can really do about that. Unless one of my colleagues decides that he wants to add something to it, I mean, I have no control over that. I'm giving you my opinion. Warren, please continue, Ed.
No, honestly, that does get at it. If it's permissible to be that way under the town code, other than asking, in the interest of, trying to find a solution that works for both sides, I mean, it has nothing to do with the legal right.
I appreciate that.
And there's nothing to say that the two neighbors can't get together and discuss their concerns and not necessarily have to modify anything, but maybe they will or maybe they won't, but if you don't ask, you don't get.
I have a question. So there's 2 trees shown on that property line right now, I think, that are existing, so those are going to
So normally they are going to remain.
Like, I know because the driveway is gonna be a little different.
This one is going, unfortunately.
Yes, okay, but the 2 on the lot line are
Yeah, we're going to try to,
maintain those.
We don't want to take them down. The only, from what I know, when it is that close to the root, but we're only putting the slab on grade on this part, so hopefully if that's usually the rule of thumb is when you have the crown of the root is pretty much similar to the root, and when you disturb that, it may result that the tree may die later on, but hopefully not if this is not going to be. So I don't know, but this is not on our plan. We are not we try to preserve those 2 trees, and possibly planting additional screen from the neighbors.
I think somebody wants to say something. Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Kathy Gonzalez and I also reside at the property next door. So unlike other situations that we've heard here tonight, we have a little bit of a different situation with how the neighbor has approached us with this. We were approached after the plans had already been in motion and all of that, and basically I was told about 2 weeks ago, and the neighbor across the street was just told yesterday by the property owner that this is what she's planning to do. So there was no, how do you feel about this? What do you feel about, just anything, just there was no courtesy there. When she approached me, my question is, what exactly, how much of a setback variance are they asking for?
And the garage is 3 feet, a 3 feet variance.
2 feet.
It says, okay,
So
For the garage, for the
I don't know, it says on the nose.
The garage is 3 feet.
that's what so she had told me when she approached me 2 weeks ago that it was a foot and actually yesterday she even told us 1 3 inches was all she was asking for. And then she had told me 2 weeks ago there was 1.5 feet. We do know that it was actually 3 feet that they're asking for. Our houses are very close to each other. To put on a big 2-car garage, which the neighborhood has all 1-car garages except for the house on the other side of her property, which is probably the biggest property on the street, the most probably contemporary house in our neighborhood. Our houses are old. She had originally had a 2-car garage or a 1-car garage, I don't know what it was, before she had done her original renovation years ago. And they took that out and put the driveway right up against this. So there was a garage in that house originally. It just comes very close to us. She had also told us that she was taking down those 2 trees that are dangerous trees. We've had Westchester Tree Life tell me that those trees are way too big, that they should never have gotten as big as they are. So the concern of having a driveway go over that root system is very concerning to us.
So we can take
She had told us that was definitely part of the plan. Now we're hearing tonight that that is not part of the plan. So we're just concerned that there's they're not being completely transparent. We're worried that things will happen that they're not being 100% forthright. And we just want to be sure that everything is on the up and up, and that another concern of ours is that there is a lot of car action that goes on at that property. They have numerous cars. The cars are always changing, the kinds of cars, everything. They're loud cars. They have loud mufflers. They're and listen, that's their passion and all that, and that's great. But with respect to the neighborhood, through all the years, we've put up with a lot of noise pollution. All the neighbors know it. All the neighbors feel it. It's been a problem. It's gotten better as the boys have gotten older and have been much more respectful. But they have a lot of friends with they're into cars. We're worried about a bigger driveway, a garage, more cars, more action going on, and the houses. We are close. And I know that they say that the 2 driveways across is not an issue, but the street is narrow. It's not a typically wide street. It's narrow, and it's just with all the car action going on, it just seems like it's just an accident waiting to happen. So those are all my concerns. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so what about the trees?
I can
Let's
address
figure out what we're gonna do with the trees.
I'm the owner,
Okay.
I'm here. If I may speak about the 2 trees maybe first. Those 2 trees, actually, I do wanna take down. So that's just one thing, and I did say that to Kathy a couple of weeks ago, and I abide by that because I think those trees should come down, and I'd like to put up a nice, of the green giants in between the properties, and they'll grow nice and they'll look beautiful, and we'll have the coverage. In terms of my calculations, I was off, because I did not know about the walls and the calculations of the walls. So whether it's 1.3, 1.5, I think it's ultimately 2 feet is what Claudia said. So just definitely the trees, I do wanna take them down myself.
Actually, it's 3 feet.
It's really it should be 2 feet because it's 7.94 where we are. So this is Tom, look.
7.94 is too close to call that.
Yeah. So that's why
Your
you-
mason, if he goes off by an inch, then we're back in front of the board. So I understand your statement, but we gave you a foot to do construction.
Yeah, so it's like a generous variance basically, but we're not
We
going
never
to-
go to the exact
Yeah.
number. So I understand that you may build to that, what you're
Right.
stating, but we're giving you a variance if you're off by an inch or two. 7.9 is
So it's
is 8.
basically we are asking for bigger variance that we are projecting to build. We are projecting to build less. Like on the plan, we are, according to the plan of the garage, the way we want to build it, is it's going to be 8 foot from the property line, 7.94 exactly. But I understand that the variance is for 3 feet, yeah. Just to-
Right, well, and we do that, like our building inspector explained to you, that sometimes it's virtually impossible to get to the inch on
No,
these
of course,
constructions.
and I appreciate that,
Can you
it's
get the microphone, please? The microphone.
No, I appreciate it, that's better, but just to clarify those numbers, that's all I wanted to say.
And so for the interest of the neighbors, the 3 feet variance on our request is
Right.
maximum. It may be less if your calculations on site come to that. It will never be more because you would be back to us and we'd have you take it down. So we don't wanna do that, which is so we try to protect everybody in this instance.
No, that's better, it's.
As to the trees again, I would be inclined to require, if the variance is approved by our board, I would be inclined to require those trees to be removed
Okay.
and to have a screening buffer put up. The green giant evergreen sounds like a very good alternative because they grow up very fast, they grow very thick, and they create a visual screen that's it's planted properly impenetrable. So in order to do that, we would need a planting plan, an approved planting plan. But that could be taken care of by making it part of the motion that it's going to be done, and if it isn't done, then you're never gonna get a building permit or a CO, rather than have you come back and drag this out for meeting after meeting, which is unfair to everybody. So that's my comment on it. Yes,
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, a tree removal permit will be required with
Absolutely.
removal of 3 trees, and the neighbors will need to be notified. And this may elevate to the environmental review board stepping in to figure out the replacements and how so they will be replaced.
okay.
It may be advantageous
In
for
that
the
case, then we're
applicant
not
to
gonna,
go there
we're not
first.
gonna go too far here tonight. You know, I'm trying to make it easy for everybody, but if that's the case, we're gonna do what needs to be done. Okay, so that's part of it. Thank you. That's gonna be part of our determination. The other thing I wanna bring forth is the existing shed.
Okay.
I noticed that your shed is almost back to back with your neighbor's shed.
Right,
Okay.
so they
Uh
similar distance.
which nobody's complained about the shed tonight, and I believe that nobody's going to complain about it, but for the record. Because everybody has sheds out there, and everybody knows exactly.
You don't have a garage.
Everybody has, they have a perfect idea of why these sheds are necessary, and it's unfortunate that properties are so small, but that's the facts of life. So I wanna just get it out in front of my colleagues, and I have no objection to the shed, nobody's ever objected to it. And it's there in conjunction with a similar shed on the other side of the property line. And whatever happens tonight with the garage approval, recommendation or request, that the shed is fine with everybody. Okay, that's that. So what we're gonna do tonight then is we're going to have to postpone this hearing. And the applicant is going to get a tree removal permit for the 3 trees by going to the proper procedure to get the approvals. May have to go in front of, you know, the environmental review board, we don't know yet, but whatever the case is, our building department will be happy to advise you on that. And what needs to be added after the tree removal permit is accepted and approved is a planting plan showing a row of, we're suggesting green giant evergreens.
Yes,
I
which
mean,
is
if you
very
have something other you would like to do, you can do
No,
that.
this
You
is
have every right
that's-
to say, I'd rather put plant X instead of Y, you know, we'll take it into consideration. But we wanna get a planting plan showing that there will be a buffer between your neighbor, your property and the neighbor's property. And I would suggest strongly that you show the neighbor the plan too, so that they don't come back to us and say, wow, I didn't realize this is what it was gonna be when you come to us again.
Right, well,
If you think you can get all this done by the next meeting, we'll be happy to hear you again. If you can't get it done, I'm sorry to say, you'll be back the meeting after that.
Right,
But we will leave it open for the next meeting.
right, I won't be able to actually attend the next meeting, so is there no possibility to have it conditionally approve the variance with this planting plan, because
We do that on occasion.
yeah,
In this particular instance, there's a lot that needs to be done, and a lot of potentially a lot of motions to go forward through with the environmental review board, et cetera. It's not just a simple one-shot thing. And even if we gave you a conditional approval, part of the conditions would be that you wouldn't get the building permit immediately either. You would not be able to get the building permit until we know that your process is going to be brought to fruition. It's just not gonna get stopped somewhere. So I'm hesitant to do that tonight, I'm sorry to say, but we're going to have to put you off at least till next meeting. And I suggest you do all you can between now and then. If you don't have it 100% in order, come back to us anyway and tell us how far you are. And if it's so far that we believe you're able to continue without interruption, we may be considered.
Can I just one more thing, because so in terms of the trees, I've had Dennis over actually many times over the property, because I've been thinking about how on earth to put this garage on the property, which is relatively small. So a lot of the trees, actually, I even pre-planted. The two trees, which are the white pines, and talking to Dennis, like those are not a problem. Like those, because of whatever technical words he uses, so I know like those things are, that's never the issue. It's, I do have that beautiful red maple that unfortunately would have to go, but I know I've had him over the property many a time, because even I was asking him previously, like, how can we save the maple, can we move the garage driveways different places, and so I understand also, I mean, if there's any way we could do like a conditional, because I'm perfectly happy putting in the green giants. I have a similar actually row of green giants on the other side, which is absolutely dense and beautiful, and that's what I intend to do, so I don't know if that's in any way we can do a conditional.
No, we're not gonna do a conditional tonight, but if you're confident that Dennis is on board with the ideas of how you wanna handle these tree removals, then you should be able to get here next month and give us all the info and we can go forward with it. I don't see a way tonight to do this properly, is what I'm saying, and we don't wanna have this thing come back to us.
So the only thing we're going to come back next meeting, and I may do it abroad or I'm going to ask the client because I'll be in Europe, so it will be 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning for me. So would be to present a planting plan approved with the town.
You're going to show us that you have an approval to remove the trees.
Right.
That's critical, you need to get a permit for that.
Yes.
And then you're gonna show us a planting plan that shows the screening that's going to be installed during or after construction to screen the neighbors from the new construction. And if it all looks good, we'll go forward.
The footprint and everything we're leaving the way it is. This not going to be, yes, the footprint of the
Right,
garage.
what you're showing now, unless one of my colleagues has objection to it, I
Mr. Chairman,
don't.
I just have a question. In light of the neighbors' concerns about the bulk of the building, did this go in front of the ARB?
No,
No need?
Not yet, sir. No.
but the RMB does not really talk about the bulk, other than how it looks like.
They will refer to the architectural features of the house,
Yeah.
Not the bulk.
not the square footage.
Okay.
So I just, yeah, so
Again,
I just want to know what
Get as much as you
to
can
prepare
get
for the
done,
next meeting, yeah.
come back to us, and we will do what needs to be done from there on.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
We'll see you next month.
Kadosh?
Okay. You ready for this?
Yes, sir.
You calling it?
I called it Kadosh.
Oh,
Good night. From Zoom, representing the owner, Kadosh. Sorry. So, can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Can you state your name again and your
Yeah, Jeremy Renato here from Rain Concepts, just representing the owner, Michael Kadosh. And looking for a variance for coverage and for several front yard setbacks that are related to construction of a new building. I don't know if you'd like me to share my screen here with the plan set that we have.
Please do.
Hopefully I can do that correctly. Okay. So the property as located here has two driveways. The one entering off Autumn Street being the main one that they use, and another one that comes off of here, off of King Street, that from what I understand from the owner, is sort of like a secondary entrance. They are proposing to put a pool, a subsequent patio, and some other sort of improvements here that lead from the house in this side yard area, and also a potential future cabana, depending on, when the homeowner would decide to do that. In order to install that pool, there is a coverage variance that we'll be seeking, in the amount of 2,760 square feet. There are also, because of the way that this lot is sort of oriented, and I know you can see this here, that the portion of the yard where the pool is going to be installed is, although sort of acts like a side yard or rear yard, it's actually the front yard. So because the front yard setback for a pool is 3 times what a normal setback would be, that sort of pushes the pool, the patio, pool equipment, and everything that's associated with this construction into a variance condition as well.
So could you explain to us for the record how a property that is 6.231 acres in size in an R2 district doesn't have enough room to get the pool in a place that doesn't require a variance? It sounds like a lot of property.
It is a lot of property, so there are 2 reasons for that. One being the fact that the property has 2 separate entrances, which it looks like were sort of remnants of past constructions and newer subdivisions that took place over the years. There's also, historically, there's a multitude of older concrete staircases and sort of patio areas here. Down here, there's more concrete staircases. Over here, there's more like sort of ornate, garden type walls and terraces and everything that's existing, and all these need to be added into that coverage according to town code. So they, just the stairs and walls alone in these two areas are almost 4,000 square feet, bringing the coverage over, just for that. So that's mostly what's going on here. Just that it's an older property and it has some of these older improvements that are sort of indicative of that.
Okay, that takes care of the coverage question. The other question is, on a huge piece of property like this, why can't you make the 3 times the footage setback requirements?
Well,
Why does it have
that's
to
a
be so
question,
close?
that's a question I can answer as well. Let me see if I can stop sharing here and just reshare sort of a different view here. Hold on 1 second, let me just get my correct screen up. That question is mainly to do with a few things. So here's a little bit of a different view of the property. This is the location where the pool would go. Back here we have, we have a body of water that we need to maintain a distance to. The only real level areas of the property are all within the front yard here. All this is really not conducive to pool construction at all. It's hard to get to. It would not be easy to construct in to build a pool. And I'm not sure that we could meet steep slope or any of the other setbacks that we would need to meet from wetlands, one or the other, in order to do that. So really, the area that it makes sense is anywhere over here, whereas, it's being proposed now. They actually were gonna put it a little bit closer to the house, but due to the septic system being in that area, we had to push it back a little bit into sort of this corner here. So you can see this is like where it would be, right where these sort of existing piers are. So all this area is really, it's just unusable for pool, as far as from a construction perspective and from a permitting perspective too for steep slopes.
Gotcha, thank you. Next question. You have two entrance driveways. Does that make, I'm gonna ask our building inspector that, does that make this a corner lot?
The second driveway doesn't go out to the road, it's an easement through another property.
So it's not really a corner lot, because a corner lot would have 2 front yards,
Yes.
and that would make it a lot easier for us.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah, just for the record. Those are the extent of my questions. Is there anybody in the audience or online who would like to address this application?
No hands are raised.
No hands raised, no hands raised here, no problem. Board, anybody have a question, concern, comment?
I have some concern just about the coverage. Given, to your point, Mr. Chairman, that it is a large piece of land, and there seem to be a lot of probably ancillary steps and other cement features that has it been considered to remove any of those items at all?
So I would like, I have the homeowner on here as well, Michael Kadash, who can answer that question, but they do have some historical value that I don't feel like they wanna take that characteristic away from the property. I do feel like it's one of the reasons why, speaking with Michael, he purchased the property, and to eliminate some of that sort of, let's say, old world charm that the property has, to just install a new pool is not something that a trade I think they'd be willing to make. But I'd like Michael to speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I would agree. I think if you saw that, and Jeremy, if you'd like to pull up the picture, you have the picture handy. I think it would show, this was the original house on the lot. And it was originally constructed, I wanna say in the late 1800s, and then renovated again in 2000, where they just added they sort of removed the above portion and just built a new home going upward, keeping the stone intact that matches the staircase and everything Jeremy just pointed out. The shared egress, even the driveways, they're all there because they originally sold off the parcels and gave the ability to build around. And there are 4 or 5 other houses surrounding us here that all actually have pools. So being the last one, and the most historic one, and you can find the names of the original owners back in the day etched around some of these things. This isn't something that I wanna even think about taking down. I don't think anybody would. It's beautiful. It's a little old, but it's really stunning, and a big reason we bought the house.
Okay.
Some of those pictures in there. There's one more picture here too. I'm sure as well.
Can I just ask?
Okay.
I just wanna ask one further question on this, just seeing this now. I mean, other than the stairs that you're showing, and I understand that that's a big portion of the development coverage, have you looked any other places where you might be able to at least take some of it off?
We have, so to answer that question, yes, we have spent probably, a combined 30 to 40 hours between me and Michael and his architect and the landscape architect trying to see where there are pieces that we could remove from and short of, ripping out an entire driveway entrance and causing a lot more disturbance or, taking down some of these walls or stairs, there really isn't much else to take it from. I mean, it really is the driveways and the walls and the stairs. If you look at the breakdowns of the coverage, and hold on, I'll actually pull that up here so we can see that as well, because that's. Let me just. Up here. There we go. So if you look at sort of all these existing coverage areas, I mean, it's driveways, walls, stairs, walls, stairs, walls, stairs, walls, stairs, walls, stairs, walls, stairs. I mean, that's really it. The only other pieces are the house itself, two other little patios, which we're gonna sort of use to step onto that new pool area. And that's really all there is. There isn't really much to take from unless you want to take some of these walls away, which are characteristic of the property, or eliminate an entrance. So we didn't really see a way that we could get it in there without eliminating something that's gonna really take away from the property. And trust me, we looked really hard because, it doesn't, nobody wants to take the time to come from zoning, obviously. Because it just kind of kills time on the project, but we just really could not find another way around it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So what you're telling us is the existing overcoverage was not created by the homeowner. It was created
No,
by.
I don't even think by the many previous owners before.
It was created previously by other owners, and it's my impression by what you said and what I just saw in pictures, some of it may be, maybe not really, but maybe possibly historical in value, and it does add to the property. And
Definitely, I mean, I don't know if it's actually historical in value, but it's definitely.
no, I'm not saying it is
historical
actually,
value.
but there may be some consensus about that or some idea that these structures were built in a historical context and do add to it's my opinion now that they do add to the property. There's something unique. I know that the property and the house itself is a unique situation. So I have less and less concern about the coverage problems here. My colleagues will have their own concerns, I'm sure, but I'm just giving you my input. Okay. Did we ask if anybody wanted to speak to this one yet? I don't remember even doing that. We got involved here. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this application, or anybody online that would like to speak to this application?
No hands are raised online.
No raised hands online, no raised hands in the audience. That's good. Does anybody Any other concerns, or are we up
No.
up to speed here?
Let's go.
All right, in that circumstance, I will move that we close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
Herman Giardina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Okay,
Sure, I'll take
so we need a motion. Warren?
Warren's
Okay,
Okay,
I guess.
This is, I'd like to make a motion on the application of Michael and Megan Kiddush. This is 715 King Street. And they've an application to construct an in-ground pool with an adjacent patio and future cabana. They are essentially, well, they're seeking a number of variances. First, they are seeking a development coverage variance of 2,760 square feet. They, with respect to the swimming pool, which is located in the front yard, there are basically the setback becomes 3 times the district setback when it's installed in the front yard. So you have the patio, we'll talk about that first. The patio, they're requesting a front yard variance of 130 feet. For the pool, they're requesting a variance of 120 feet. For the pool equipment, the requested variance is a front yard variance of 53 feet. And for the cabana, the requested variance is 44 feet. And again, in each of these instances, the variance is from the 3 times setback that is required when the pool is in the front yard. So, to go through the various factors that we consider looking in this application, first, will the granting of the variance create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood? No, I don't think so at all, and there seems to be an effort to preserve some very long-standing, potentially historically valuable aspects of the property. Can the benefit be sought be achieved by some other method? We've actually asked on the record tonight the applicant a fair number of questions about that with respect to both the development coverage variance and the setback variances, and there are a number of issues with respect to the development coverage variance. There are 2 separate entrances to the property, and the stairs and walls along the property, which have been there for quite some time, predating the property owner's purchase. Again, were a driver of the purchase of the property, and also again seem to have some historical value to them. With respect to the straight setback variances, it looks like the topography of the land, even though there is a significant a significant amount of acreage, the topography makes it relatively difficult to place the pool without starting to get into issues of slope. I think there may be a wetland issue you may start to get into, and there are also septic fields that we heard about as well. So it does not seem that you can really achieve this by any other method. Are the requested variances substantial? I don't, you are going over the development coverage variance, but again, in light of the constraints that you're under, I don't think they really are substantial. Same goes for the setback variances. Will there be an adverse effect on the physical environment or conditions in the neighborhood? No. Is this alleged difficulty self-created? Yeah, arguably it is. You want to put the pool on the property, it doesn't have to be there. If you're going to put it there, that is a self-created hardship. However, the benefit to the property owner is certainly outweighs any detriment to the community. Tom, is there anything that you need, Tom?
A foundation survey and a final survey.
Okay, foundation survey and a final survey will be required. Applicant shall have 6 months to start and 1 year to finish.
Can I just add one item to that motion? Great motion.
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
This is a difficult one. I wanna add my usual swimming pool caveat,
Okay.
and I'll do that because
Gunite.
first of all, I'm assuming this is a gunite pool. Mr. Applicant.
I believe so. Mike would have to answer that question. Mike, are you doing a gunite pool or was it a different means? I believe it is.
Is he still
You're,
there?
I think you're on mute still, Mike.
Sorry about that. Yes, it will be a gunite pool.
It's a gunite pool, okay. When you do a gunite pool, we've had problems in the past with locations. When you're ready and your wire mesh is in place, your rebar is in place, before you shoot the gunite, we're gonna require a survey as to location. We wanna be sure it's right where it's supposed to be, because once you shoot the gunite, you're stuck with it. And we've had in the past some problems, and we don't wanna make you take the pool out after the gunite sets up. So we're gonna require you to give us a survey before you shoot the gunite, and if everything is where it's supposed to be, go right ahead and finish the job. That's part of our application, as part of the requirements. Other than that, I have nothing else to say.
Would ask for a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
You have your variance, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Sure. We're gonna take a 5-minute break before we go on to our next case.
Maybe I'll 5 minutes too.
I will confirm.
Thank you, we're back.
Okay,
Next application.
thank you for allowing me to move, Mr. Chairman.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you for your indulgence.
Growlitzer,
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, I'm Scott Hirschman, I'm the architect of record representing Michelle and Keith Browser, the homeowners of 2 Hemlock. We are here tonight seeking a variance of 9 feet to our rear yard setback in order to accommodate a replacement of an existing deck that is failing. And the existing deck, this is a corner lot, we have an irregular shape. It was part of a development that was constructed at the same time. This is our existing survey here showing the complete boundary of the property. And this is the filing for the variance showing the small triangle, which in total totals 135 square feet.
Are you aware of the letters that we received? One in opposition and one in favor?
Yes, yes. Would you like me to address it?
And well, I mean, yeah, I'd like you to address it, and we'd like to know if you had any comments in regard to it too, but give us whatever information you can on that.
So as often happens, we file for the variance because we've done different studies and realized this is the plan that best fits the needs of our client. And more specifically, there was on the original plan shown in the foundation a vertical storage unit which was part of the structure of a fireplace that was set up on the deck. So to
Excuse me, I'm sorry, can I just interrupt for a second? I just, for the record, to be clear, I just wanna make sure we're referring to the objection letter, anyway, of Ann and Robert Natali dated April 28th, 2025 and received on that date, is that correct?
Is that correct? Okay.
So to further clarify the filing and the nature of what we put in, I'm gonna turn the page, on the next page of this. So again, here is our existing deck. This is our proposed deck. In the drawings that were viewed by the neighbors as part of our public announcement, we had indicated that there was gonna be a structure coming down that was labeled as storage with a fireplace above. In further evaluation of our design, we revisited that, and there is still a fireplace that would be mounted onto the deck itself, but we are instead of having that closed storage here, extending storage beneath the staircase in line to the foundation wall, concealing existing propane tanks. And that was really, I think, a big part of the objection was what the view up would be of said deck.
So you're gonna be concealing the propane tanks
Correct.
and the storage under the deck?
Yes, and the conversation on TV, it was a blocking detail. We were asking for a future to, just like we do for handrails and guardrails for ADA, I'm asking that they put blocking inside of this framing, this metal frame chimney for a non-venting fireplace if they were to mount a TV.
So you're not gonna do that, you just have a future plans?
It's this detail.
Okay.
Cause I was talking to Tom about the details of how to brace said fireplace.
Right, okay. So, question, Tom, if they're not gonna do this as now, in the future, if they wanted to put this fireplace in, would they have to come back to the building, not necessarily to us, but to the building department for approval, or how would that work? Would that, you would have to have a permit for it, or what is the procedure for that?
If I understand correctly, you're not building the fireplace now?
No, we are putting the fireplace, it doesn't have the foundation down to the ground, which I think generated a lot of confusion.
Okay, I thought you just said that you're putting the blocking in for the future
No,
fireplace that was gonna be freestanding.
There was a lot of concern about noise and elements relating to a TV.
Well, that was gonna be my
that
next
was
question,
in the blocking
we're gonna
detail.
get into that.
Mhm.
Okay, so the fireplace is going to be built.
Correct,
And
yes,
it's
that was
gonna
still part of the variance.
It's gonna be, doesn't need a foundation, it's gonna be supported by the deck. Okay. I get it, I see that. So it'll be open under the deck
Correct.
with the screening for the propane tanks, et cetera, et cetera.
Following the line of the staircase.
Yeah, okay. So let's address the TV. Now, the neighbors seem to have quite concern about the TV and the potential noise intrusion into their property. Could you get into that for us, please?
So, a few things. We did review a few configurations for this outdoor space, and we thoughtfully were orienting said TV towards the building, which is consistent when we're putting outdoor speakers into landscape in order to direct the music or sound, whatever you're listening to, onto your property, opposed to conveying or transmitting in the opposite direction. So the house as it exists now does have speakers mounted on it facing out. And as I understand, there's never been an issue of noise in the 5 years that my client has been in residence.
So you're saying you have speakers inside the house?
No, there's already outdoor audio on this house that exists.
There is outdoor audio?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because you know that there are some requirements and restrictions about
Oh, definitely, yeah.
audio equipment in the outdoor areas.
Yes,
And you will be complying with that.
correct.
And if not, then you'll be talking to the building department, I'm sure, soon. Okay, that's a good question answered. Next question, there were concerns about screening, about the removal of some trees, et cetera, on the property line facing the neighbor who is having some difficulties with this one. Can you tell us about the removal of the screening that was existing and if there's any plan to be put back?
So there definitely will be planting after the deck is done. This is our primary means of access to the rear yard without going over the septic. But our silt fence and all construction that we're doing does not require the removal of any trees in the rear yard.
No, I know that, but there was some question about, in the past, there were some trees that were
That have fallen or were dangerous.
to obstruct the view of the neighbor's property onto your property and vice versa. Am I correct in saying that some of that has been removed, not in conjunction with the deck itself, but for other reasons?
Mr. Chairman, I can speak to that. My name is Keith Browser, I'm the homeowner, and
Please come up and into the mic.
oh, I'm sorry. Good evening, my name is Keith
Growlitzer, and I'm the homeowner of 2 Hemlock Hollow. The removal of any trees that occurred on our property were only because they were dead, damaged, or fell after a storm. That was it. There was no cosmetic removal of trees on our property. We've been there since 2021, and anything that's been removed has been removed because of that.
Okay, alright.
So just to address that.
Do you have any plan to reinstitute any screening
Yeah,
behind in that area?
we're looking forward to adding a lot of screening to the backyard once the deck is complete and once the landscape plans are put together from that perspective.
That's good, okay. I'm okay. Board, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I understand the concern about noise from neighbors hearing noise in the property. I assume that we have a decibel level maximum, even, not between 8 PM and 10 AM. I have to assume we have requirements for.
If I might answer that question, the noise code chapter 90 addresses decibel levels at the property lines. Yes, there is an established decibel level.
So I would just wanna be sure that, any outdoor speakers, whether they're facing the house or facing out, would meet those requirements. I think that's a big quality of life issue. I'm sure you feel the same.
I do, that's correct.
So I think that would be something that I just would wanna be certain that, there isn't noise spilling out into neighbors' properties.
My intention would not to have any excessive decibel noise, and at this moment, while the plan allocates a box for a television, we haven't decided if that's something we're even going to put in. We have a young family, we wanna enjoy our outdoor space, we've been members of this community for 15 years and have never had a noise violation or hosted a party or done anything other than just wanted to live on.
Right, but as you know, neighbors frequently don't want to say anything they feel it, you know, it could cause bad blood, so I think people generally are standoffish in creating any kind of potential conflict, so that's why I would rather just forestall that possibility, just be certain that you know, that we're in line with the noise requirements of the town. I think that to me is very important.
Fully intend to comply with that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I don't have any other questions. I do wanna hear from anybody, I see that we have some people in the audience.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? I kind of thought there were. Please come forward.
Thank you. My name is Anne Natali, and I reside at 3 Hemlock Hills with my husband. We built the house at 3 Hemlock Hills 25 years ago, and we are the authors of the letter to which you were referring earlier. We've loved our life in Chappaqua these 25 years and are hoping that the remainder of our lives play out here. I want to thank all of you for this opportunity to speak. My prepared remarks will be brief, a little briefer than the letter that we provided you last week. My husband Robert and I were not aware of the plan to request a setback variance at 2 Hemlock Hollow, the property adjoining our own, until we received the zoning board notice last week or 2 weeks ago. And it was only yesterday that we spoke with Keith and Michelle Brelitzer of their plans. As you know from our letter, we are opposed to granting the Grelitzers' request as the plans now exist, and those plans are different from what we've just heard discussed. They have been altered in the last 24 hours.
We were trying to also have the renderings help you to see what it looked like.
So this is all new to us and in some respects different from the plans that we have been looking at for the last 10 days or so. I'm sorry. Their application asks for a substantial 10-foot variance. That's what we were told, not 9 as we heard this evening, from the minimum rear yard setback to expand their deck. And it is within the specific proposed area of variance that the deck is designed to house a TV with a separate speaker box and fireplace. The plans also appear to call for the removal of a significant number of mature trees along the property line. We've counted them. It's quite a considerable number, although we understand that fewer will be affected. Robert and I strongly believe that the proposed expansion will adversely impact our quality of life in 4 significant ways. First, we are very concerned that an outdoor TV with separate speakers, particularly one that is housed within the area of variance so close to our home, will impinge on the peace and enjoyment of our property. Our backyard is our oasis. I don't know if you have the photographs that we submitted with our letter. But in 2005, we created it where none existed before. Our backyard has a radical slope, just like the Grelitzers. And to achieve a level lawn and terrace, we built retaining walls, we backfilled, we heavily landscaped the area. The backyard today is our piece of heaven and one of the great joys of our life in Chappaqua. And I garden, by the way. Second, in addition to potential sound issues, there is the potential risk of increased water runoff and soil erosion as the proposal appears to call for the removal of a great many trees. Our property at 3 Hemlock Hills is wet, like so much of Chappaqua, we realize. But there is a lot of water that dumps directly onto our property. We've worked very hard to mitigate the effects of street and soil runoff. One of the things we did was to build a curtain drain 15 feet in depth, in parts, that runs to 3 sides of our septic fields. This was done back in 2003. Since then, the property has been in a state of balance, but that balance is disrupted during heavy rains when a farmer's well that we are told is 100 to 150 years old, it's in the middle of our wet garden, becomes overwhelmed. That farmer's well runs under our neighbors' lawns down to Barnes Pond. Our concern is that the Gralitzer's continued elimination of mature trees will invite even more water flow onto our property and that of our neighbors who are here tonight, the Peter Godet and Mario Giordano. Third, the elimination of multiple trees near the property line poses two other potential problems. These trees are mature and their green canopies provide both sight and sound baffles for us. Without this leafy cover, we have absolutely no privacy in relation to the Gralitzer property because their deck is at the same height as our second floor, the top of our second floor. Last and just as important as these concerns is the further potential compromise of our view shed. For the last 4 years, the area under the Gralitzer's deck, which is on full view to us and anyone walking or driving the neighborhood, has been the resting place for 3 large white propane tanks. The neighbors previously had 1. Old deck furniture, soccer nets. We provided a photograph of this, and I understand that now that there are revisions to the plan that will conceal some of this, but it's more than the propane tanks that we find unsightly. It's the collection of other items that are stored there. So we believe that enlarging the potential storage area, which is what an enlarged deck provides, and moving it closer to our yard will exacerbate the unsightliness from our vantage point. So we'd like to accommodate our neighbors. We want them to be happy in their home, but we feel that the design should be revised to accommodate our needs as well. We believe that compromise is the essence of neighborliness. A variance to build a larger deck is one thing. A variance to house a TV, which is for us the single most problematic and intrusive aspect of the design plan, is quite another, particularly when the Gralitzers have the property to put the TV somewhere else. The deck that they are constructing wraps around. I don't know, has this changed in elevation any since the drawings that we were provided?
No, the deck plan itself is exactly the same,
Okay.
it's just the
But
foundation.
the land it rises higher than is shown here. So that they actually, to our way of thinking, have access to a level area to this side of the house, to the west side.
Which is their
So-
side yard off the formal living room, 2 fireplaces blocking, and the septic field,
Well,
and a downward slope.
in part, the septic field is over here. There is land here, there's also area here. The corner for which they're asking to extend the deck is what is nearest our house. It is here, and this is, as you can see, where the TV is planned, the location of the TV. So, in exchange for the requested variance, we would respectfully ask the Gralitzers and the Board of Appeals to relocate the TV to another part of the deck, that they avoid removing any more mature trees from the area between our backyards, and I could say more about those trees that have come down, because I don't think that it was really addressed in detail in our letter, and that they install recessed panels or screens beneath the new deck to conceal the propane tanks and other items. So I don't know how to read these drawings, like I said,
So-
I'm just seeing them for the first time.
So to kind of to come off of what you had just said about the compromise as well, this whole area, so from your vantage point here, the staircase hugs the back of the house. All the way along the rear would be screening, so this, and let me go back to the
So this is all new, this is not in the drawings that we saw.
Yes, we were
These, I mean, so
Well,
this,
just to clarify, it's actually the only thing that has changed. We added this in response to your conversation about having screening come across.
underneath.
Correct, cause we agree that when they make the investment in this deck, they would like to not see a propane tank. Similarly, we were reviewing the height of the chimney and the detail of the chimney, which at the base was closed storage, and determined that it would be better just to have the chimney reside fully on the deck itself.
Where it rests was
Yeah.
not an issue for us. It's the fact that it houses a TV and separate amplifier, speaker, sound amplifier.
I'm Robert Natale.
Well-
And once the variance is granted, there's an opportunity to put the TV in at any time if there's no proviso against it. And it's really the location of the television. We don't think it would be a hardship if it was moved. Because we're talking about a deck that is going to almost triple in size.
So there is other surface area, I believe is what Robert is, the point that
Yeah, we
he's,
don't think it would be a
that he's making. As I say, the surface area of the deck is not the issue for us, that they want to extend that. It's that in that very area, that 10 feet or 9 feet, you said tonight, that is where the television and speakers will be. And if I may remark on something that was said earlier about the speakers on the house, the Gralitzers have not been able to use their deck, so we don't know how they will use amplified sound.
Well, I mean,
We have not.
We currently have a barbecue out
Please,
there.
please
Oh,
come
sorry.
up to the mic.
Hi, I am Michelle Gralitzer. Hi, everybody. I mean, yes, our deck, we moved to our house in 2021. We lived in another house in Chappaqua previously since 2014. But just to address the deck, yes, we, moved into this house and the deck definitely needs to be redone. It's in disrepair, but currently, we still do have a barbecue on it. As a matter of fact, Keith barbecues every night out there with our kids, and we have a smoker out there. We have a table and chairs out there. We are out there, but it's not used to the full potential of our property. For example, you can see it's small here. This is where our current barbecue is. So, yeah, I mean, we're out there, we have it. It's not that we don't use it, it's just we'd like to have its full potential of our backyard is really what we're asking for. That's what I want to add, that we do use it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I just ask one question, just for clarification?
Yes.
Because I did read your letter, and thank you for submitting that. But at the end of your letter, one of the asks that you have is that no outdoor TV or sound amplification equipment will be installed on the deck. But what I'm hearing from you is that.
We have backed,
Oh, okay.
because that was submitted before we met with the Gralitzers. So we are requesting just the 3 items that I mentioned this evening, that the TV is relocated to another portion of the deck, be it here, do you mind if I touch it?
Sure.
Be it behind their I'm sorry, their family room,
So that,
or the lower deck that wraps around, at least on the drawings that we were given, that wraps around the side of the house. There's another room here. And
so that is an
it's
office,
clear enough.
so
These are different drawings, that's why I'm not relating to them. I'm thinking of the ones that we've had for the last 10-12 days.
I have those here as well, if that will help you orient yourself, because as I said, it was just the foundation that is shifted. This is what was, the actual footprint, everything is the same.
Okay, so this is what I mean, this is the house. Correct?
Mhm.
This is the upper deck, this is the lower deck, steps to the lower deck. And we're looking at this and wondering why the outdoor living room, so to speak, cannot be located in this area or even potentially over here. We don't understand why it has to be, and by the way, if the I think I was clear that we are not objecting to a larger deck. It's what that piece of the deck, that 10-foot deep triangle will accommodate, that we are upset about.
So from a space planning perspective and a utility perspective, it is an outdoor dining seating space adjacent to the family room and the kitchen. The other location, besides having all of the mechanicals in that area, is off of the home office of the client, making it the least desirable place. We actually expanded that as a place for them to enjoy off their working room, but certainly not to be seating as you would in the upper level. I mean, we do not have the depth of backyard that you get to enjoy.
That we
And-
created.
Correct. And so you can appreciate, I don't know how much engineering went into the tiering of your backyard, but every site wall over 3 feet in height requires full engineering and an extraordinary amount of backfill.
Yes.
And it does create an incredible amount of storm water erosion concern, which is why we've sought to stay where we are to maximize utility for the homeowner of the deck, certainly not in any way to detract from your side view or any other encumbrance in terms of acoustics, and so that's.
The backfill, just to qualify something that you said, can also act as an absorber of water, as it has on our property, for all of the runoff that we receive from the Growlitzer property. So, you know, the Growlitzers have the option of putting in retaining walls here, and they would not be anywhere near the height that we put in to level our backyard. Because we had a deck that hovered as many feet as theirs above the deck before we did our work.
But again, the deck is level to the first floor of the house, so it wasn't about the height of the deck to the grade, it was about
And
just.
I'm not suggesting that you attempt to do it in the corner where you're seeking the variance. I'm simply saying that where an outdoor living room is sought, there are options for it. Behind the Growlitzer's house that are, you know, other than going for that corner of the deck that would require the rear yard setback variance. And as we stood in their backyard yesterday and looked down at our property, you know, the trees are just starting to leaf. It was just so obvious that our lives, everything that plays out in the backyard is going to be on full view to them on this deck if the trees are removed, if the deck is extended another 10 feet and the trees are removed. And there are a considerable number of trees that have come down, not just the ones that had broken limbs that Keith Grelitzer was referencing the fact that there was a limb that fell from their tree and crushed part of our deer fence 2 years ago. And I think that tree was, you know, that you took that down after that you found that it was diseased. But there are other trees that were removed that were not diseased, and they were quite substantial in size. And I'm sorry.
If I could just add something, you know, just based on what we saw with our, you know, there's something like 15, somewhere in between 15 and 20 trees on the original site. And
site drawings,
and they are not there here.
Because they're outside of the range, it's not because
It's
they're
not
removed.
because
Yeah.
you know, the thing is, you know, you've got pine trees noted here, but nothing here, so that gave us considerable pause.
So Dennis has visited the same trees that are here and here, like just this is.
So the trees are not gonna be touched?
No.
Okay.
And just like they've upgraded the front landscape.
Yes.
The next piece of this would be, once the driveway is cleaned up and they're done constructing, to obviously graciously welcome people. I think that what's gonna happen, and my hope, with all the projects that we do locally, I live in Chappaqua also and previously lived in a house that was below my neighbor. And so I'm very sensitive to what you're talking about. And so the intention here by rotating it in the way that it is to not have you be on display, but to really have them be confined in such a way that they are not, you both have your privacy is really the true intention. And certainly I think, you know, the green giants, of course, are a solution, but I anticipate that there'll be a much more sophisticated planting plan because this is intended to
Well,
be.
see, the issue is though that with landscaping, with all respect, is that the slope is so steep that it won't be in my lifetime that those trees will ever get to the area of the deck and
What you
maybe
s-
not the
but again,
Grelitzer's
what you
lifetime.
see now is the baseline, everything else is gonna be planted. Like that's, I wanted to really clarify
But
Yeah,
those
let's
are-
talk about this a little
that
bit.
this area here is exactly the same. If you follow the silt fence here and this line, we get an elevation height. The line of 461 comes down here. There's 461, you should come around here. So our silt fence will be in front of this 18-inch maple. We're nowhere near any of those trees.
Okay, well, that's a relief
But-
because
Robert,
we,
may I
yeah,
remark
go
on what
ahead.
we saw though, when we were at the house yesterday and we stood in the driveway turnaround area and looked at the side of the deck, we saw that the overhang, and we're marked on the overhang of the large trees. And with that, said to ourselves, of course, those branches are gonna go, maybe the trees are going to come down. They're there. And we have no confidence that they are going to be left intact because they do encroach on the build out. So, you know, it is TV, sound amplification, clearly what is planned for that particular corner of the deck is going to be the nerve center of the activity that unfolds on that deck. Where there is a TV, you know, in most homes, TV becomes the wallpaper of people's lives. So the idea that the TV and the fireplace should be that close to our house and that there is the potential of our losing the screen, that sound and sight baffle is just, it's terribly concerning to us, and we don't see that it is a hardship for the Grelitzers to think about putting their outdoor living room. You know, we understand the desire to have a larger dining area just outside the kitchen. And so as I say, we are perfectly amenable to their making a larger deck. But we don't understand why it would be a hardship to move the outdoor living room to another place in the backyard. Whether it's on, you know, the topography is as it currently is, or some retaining walls of the type that you mentioned are put into place to level things. It's so I'm sorry, I don't wanna drone on. And there are probably others who would like to speak. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others who would like to speak to this application?
The water issues.
Sure, yeah.
Right at the end of it.
Exactly. Yeah, so Mario and I came here tonight just to,
And your name is,
Peter Godet, 81 Campfire Road.
for the record, thank you.
Yeah, lived in Chappaqua for 27 years. So, yeah, just concerned as far as tree removal, and we've got a lot of water that comes down through our property, Mario's property. And we've all done a lot. We've had a backhoe come in and make sure that we had it all taken care of. So it was kind of a joint neighborhood project to make sure that we were all working together to make sure that the water in a big storm, and obviously we've had some big storms in Chappaqua with the hurricanes and things like that. So yeah, I just want to make sure that the tree removal is not going to increase the water flow to a point where we'll be concerned with flooding. And when we first moved in many years ago, we did have flooding. So we took we made some remedies. They've worked for many years. We just want to make sure that if there's any tree removal, that it doesn't change that and give us a threat of flood.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mario Giordano, 87 Campfire Road. I have the same concern. The Natalias are on the corner. Peter's, the Gordets are the 81 Campfire, I'm 87 Campfire. I'm the proud owner of the Barnes Pond. So all that water ends up in the Barnes Pond and it travels down to the watershed. We get a tremendous amount of water coming down the road from across the street. I don't know how that ever got approved, but way before me. We built a brand new home there back in 2012. The water line is in the front yard when we were digging on wet days is about that much. So I always have nice lush green grass. I don't need any more water. So my main concern in our neighborhood is water. If trees are removed, more erosion, more water ends up on the Natali, ends up on Pete's, because water flows downhill, as we all know. So it ends up on my property and it becomes an issue. I'll have some water in the basement once in a while. We built a darn beautiful home and I don't need any more water. That's my concern.
Thank you.
So any remediation that needs to be done to accommodate them, nobody's looking to take away their lives. There's remediation that could be implemented. There could be plantings that could absorb, retaining walls that could divert, drainage that could be installed. All of these things are available that could divert all this water from my property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any more comments from the board?
Maybe the architect would like to talk about what's being done specifically for drainage as part of this work.
So because the deck is lifted as it is, we are certainly going to make sure that all existing foundation drains that would channel any water off of our existing building are not damaged or clogged in any way that would change the way in which water is shed from our specific building. The deck is not does not have any gutters on it itself. Water will be able to pass through. There will be crushed gravel placed beneath the deck. And typically we also have a metal edge band that is a detail that I like. A landscape designer might choose to actually create a plant bed, but I typically like to have a straight edge that follows the drip line of my decks to start grass and stop runoff from within the gravel.
One other question, I have a question on the Mr. Architect. Don't get away that soon. So what I've just heard is that no existing trees are gonna be removed when you build this deck.
Correct.
Am I right in that?
Correct.
So all the concerns in the neighborhood about removal of trees and a view shed are alleviated, so to speak.
Correct.
Okay. And you do have potential future plantings in your plan just for the beautification of the property?
Correct.
Okay. Good. With regard to the TV, I understand the neighbors' concerns, I really do. But the zoning code doesn't address TVs. We have a code that addresses potential noise problems, which would affect a TV, a radio, any kind of sound reproduction, which would be out of our purview. And I think that the correct remediation from the neighborhood would be if the TV or the sound equipment becomes a disturbance, that's the place to go for relief. It's really not here.
Could I respond to that?
Come on up.
Yeah. We're trying to prevent the kind of thing that you're describing. No one likes to have to call the police and no one likes to receive a call from the police to talk about sound. And we're just trying to prevent, this is the one opportunity the town has to prevent these kinds of things from happening. And so we do not think that it would be all that difficult to move the TV out of the variance request. And I still would think, with all due respect to you, that it would not be a major inconvenience.
Understood, but you have to realize that our motions on this board are not for particular neighborhoods, not for neighbors, not for particular homeowners. These variances that we issue run with the land. They are in perpetuity. There's nothing to say what's going to happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now that may be a problem because of our decisions here tonight or whatever night we do it on. Like I say, if there were going to be severe view shed concerns or drainage concerns, we would issue that, we would address that right now because it's a future protection for future homeowners and everything. The placement of equipment on a deck, whether it be chairs, tables, TVs, whatever, is of such a variable extent and such a personalized thing that it's unfair for us to get into that, especially when we do have laws in town that do address potential neighborhood problems, such as noise.
Even within a variance area.
I understand what you're saying, but if we did not have a law that said you have to keep your decibel level at such and such a point during the day and such a point during the evening, I would say, yeah, okay, we can do something about that because there is a severe potential. I don't think the potential here is that severe. And the cure for those problems are there. I mean, I don't like to have to call the police for anything, just as much as you do or anybody else.
Or if somebody receive a call.
Or receive, I don't wanna receive a call either. But the point is that there is a relief for this kind of situation. And it's really not up to us to speculate on what the problem is going to be and try to stop it all by issuing variances that are running with the land for in perpetuity that may or may not be of any value later on or today. I'd have a problem with that. I would have a much more problem if what they were building was giving you a runoff problem and didn't meet the requirements of our code on that regard. Or if, like I say, if your potential changes to a view shed are going to seriously affect you. Because what I heard tonight is it's not going to happen, and it's also gonna protect you more because they're going to do an additional planting for the
Yes, that was
for
not
their
in the
property,
original plan.
which to me is a good thing to hear.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they're going to do it. I'm not speaking for my colleagues, I'm speaking for myself, but the TV situation, if I had anything to say about it, would not be part of our approval. And you have somebody.
Two questions.
Yes, please.
What would guarantee that there is no tree removal after this variance is received?
Actually, there's no guarantee, but if you're severely concerned about it and my colleagues are in agreement, I would entertain the prospect of putting something in our motion that would require the maintenance of some sort of plantings to protect the view shed.
It's not just plantings, and this isn't an issue of view shed, this is privacy. This is the canopy that we're talking about that prevents that gives us privacy and a sound baffle for that
From what I
matter.
heard tonight, that canopy is not going to be disturbed.
No, but I'm saying what guarantees that those trees that provide that protective canopy are going to remain in place?
Nothing. The Mother Nature guarantees that. Mother Nature will decide if the trees live or die or fall or stand.
So there's
That's not our purview here. And you have to realize, they're asking for a 9-foot variance. If they cut 9 feet off this deck and build it as of right, you're in the same situation as you are now.
So then I ask this question, why the extra 9 feet?
Because it's a more usable and convenient deck size, which is not the first time we've had a request like that.
It's a more
it's just-
usable and convenient deck size, but it
If they were gonna build a nine, if they were
for
going
our
to build a
convenience.
9-foot addition on a deck that was going to kill the trees that are blocking the view from you to them and them to you, I'd be the first one to deny it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this board is going to be considering a multi-part test as required by law, and it's going to be weighing the various benefits and detriments of the.
I understand that, Mike, and we all understand it, but sometimes the general public doesn't understand that. They have to realize that we have to look at this in a multi-part view, but we also have to show them that we do have concerns about what their lifestyle is gonna be about, and if our variance and approval is not for this case, but for any other case, is gonna severely affect their lifestyle, then we have to be careful and not do that. But if we feel that it is what's going to be built is not gonna be detrimental to their lifestyle, then we don't have to take that into consideration. But I just wanna explain to the neighbors that are very concerned, obviously she's very concerned about this, and I understand that. But through the years, we've seen this stuff go on and on and on, and some of the concerns that the neighbors come up with turn out to be non-issues once the project is completed and everybody sees how it really works. So I'm trying to ease their mind a little bit that this is not as bad as you think it's going to be. If it gets approved, I'm not even saying it's going to be approved, because I'm only one vote here. There's 4 other votes that could vote either way, and so we don't even know what's gonna happen yet.
Mr. Giardina, I wish I could remember, but my memory isn't as good as that, the precise words that you used just 2 minutes ago to describe the inconvenience that's caused the Growlitzers because in the absence of a larger deck, the deck that is the current dimensions served the prior family well for 20 years. And it's the same size deck that we have. And it serves us perfectly well.
I'm sure it does,
There's nothing that prevents them from expanding their deck, as you can see across the back of their house. I'm asking why the variance then that brings everything that much closer to our home and makes it possible for that part of the deck that is closest to our home to see more activity than any other part of the deck. It will become the nerve center of their deck life. And there are other options available. I guess I don't know why a variance is necessary for them. They can still increase the size of their deck. They're not bound to the current dimensions of the deck. Nor were we when we built, created our backyard and created a stone terrace level with the grass. It's a matter of taste is what it comes down to, not a matter of urgency.
Can I just
Fully understood.
Can I just say something in response? Because I hear what you're saying and I understand the concern. We're all, most of us are, are homeowners or residents of the town. We and live in residential neighborhoods. I understand that. And I have no idea how my colleagues are gonna look at this, and I haven't fully made up my mind yet. But the thing I want to ask you to consider is the framework in which you're looking at, putting aside your feelings about your home and your use. I understand that. I truly do, as much as an outsider can. The problem is that the factors in which you're evaluating it are not the ones that are being put on us. And and counsel, you're free to tell them what they are. They're balancing tests. And the problem I have in listening to some of this a little bit is that if they didn't get their variance and they did what you wanted as far as having a deck that was used within the existing space, and they went and put an outside television and had all sorts of entertaining out there, all you would be left with is what the town code says about noise. And that does factor in, because that is really, as of right now, what they have.
But they would be further away.
Yeah,
because
I mean, that's
they would be further away.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
I
not
would.
suggesting, look, they have a right to have a larger
Should you
deck.
use the microphone?
Yes, I'm sorry. You know, like I said, we wanna be neighborly, but they have the perfect right of having a larger deck that is going to be almost triple the size of the original one. They have a perfect right to do that. We're not questioning that. We're questioning the why the noise factor would be closest to our home. You're suggesting that there's nothing that you can do, that our resort is to wait and see if problems arise. But we don't quite with all due respect, we'd still, and there are things that we feel that were not posted on the original plan that have our relief that they're not gonna be taking down any trees. And because of all the wetness and all the canopy and all the things that we were concerned about. But we still are, I can't get my arms around the fact that there is why the TV has to be there. And if it can't be designated from a zoning perspective to prevent the television from being there, why does it have to be zoned, because of all of the available land that's available that they have?
You mean rezoned?
Why it has to be rezoned. And they're going to have a big deck. We don't have an issue with that at all.
Okay. Chairman, I'd like to speak.
Go.
So anyway, be careful. I joined this board, I don't know, eight or 10 years ago for one of the I've lived in Chappaqua for over 40 years. And one of the reasons I joined this board was because I am very sensitive to what goes on in the town and how it's administered, and I wanted to be able to be part of that decision-making process. As our chairman pointed out, that we don't really have the purview over television. But I would say this, 25 years ago I put in central air conditioning in my house, and we had to put 2 compressors, which would have been on the north side of my property. But my neighbors sat out in a screened-in porch there. So I spent an additional $5,000 to move those 2 compressors for the air conditioning to the other side of my house. So they didn't have to listen to that. And I felt, and they never asked me, they never said a word about it, but I knew that I wouldn't like it, and I'm sensitive to noise, and I would probably say I'm hypersensitive to noise. So, but I would hope in the context of the neighborhood that you could all come together and have a discussion. I think there's ample ways to watch television inside the house with lots of rooms. I would think that would be, to me, and I can speak for the board, that we normally are always trying to have neighbors get together and work out things on their own, because we're not the police, and we don't want to be the police, and we don't have the right to be the police. But that would be something that I would love to see happen, and it would be, it could be a collegial get together and discuss, the real concerns that people have, because there are things that Natalis could do that could upset you, and you wouldn't want that to happen either. I've often thought of noise in the neighborhood as sort of mutually assured destruction. Anyone has the ability to blast out their neighbor, and we can do it whenever we want. But we hold that thing inside, so we don't do it because we wouldn't like to hear it ourselves. And so that would be my non-professional, just neighborly suggestion would be, hopefully you could, to me the size of the deck is immaterial. I'm glad to see you're not taking the trees out, that makes me happy. But I think the rest of it is really just people to people and probably is probably what we're missing in the country today, in fact, would be my suggestion to you.
I totally agree with that, and I don't want you to think in my remarks that I actually do think that it's best for, when I hear this type of scenario, it really is best between neighbors that I'd like to see it work out, because there are constraints around us, and those constraints can lead to results that that neither side are gonna like, and that's unfortunate. And I don't want that with my neighbors, and I don't want you to have that with your neighbors. So to the extent I can second that, I second it heartedly, and if the applicant is so inclined to ask for an adjournment for a time for the two adjoining neighbors to talk about that, I would think about that.
Mr. Chairman, may I interject?
Absolutely.
The new plans represent a pergola on the deck. That was never part of the original submission. If the applicant wishes to go forward with that, this may be the time to push this to the next meeting so that can be noticed.
That's the first I'm hearing of this one.
The new plans represent a pergola.
Okay,
The pergola was never part of the original submission.
good. And Mr. Architect, what do you say about that?
I say that I'm the one who actually brought it to Tom's attention. This is full transparency. I mean, when I read the letter, as soon as I received it, I immediately forwarded it to my client and the homeowner. Now, having said that, that's also why we generated all of the renderings as well as completed what is the full building permit set. Because as you know, we submit filing to be rejected to have the opportunity to stand here. And the thoughtfulness of the design was intended to be shown with all the drawings that are here, and certainly doing all the renderings, including showing how this chimney would not go to the ground, was done in response. You know,
Where, do you see
Yeah.
the pergola?
Is the pergola in the variance area or just on the deck?
one post in the corner would be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you wanna take a look?
Well, I think we can always get copies of this, because I think the suggestion is that things are not going to be resolved tonight, is that right?
So I'm gonna say, this looks like an opportunity here. An opportunity for
But we need to
more neighborly discussion while we get the actual application adjusted to reflect the proposed pergola, which may require new notices, Tom?
Yes, sir.
So, just for my clarification, where is the pergola?
I guess it's this.
Oh, this here?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the fireplace,
Yeah, no longer
that's
coming
about
to the ground.
11 feet tall.
Yeah, so it's a minor item that may present an opportunity here.
Yeah, that
So
would be
given the
11
light of
feet
this
tall.
new information, we can't finalize this application even if we wanted to. Because unless you wanted to forget about the pergola and get rid of it, which I don't think is gonna happen. So here we go again with another postponement. This is a new record for postponements, we don't usually do that. But yes, Tom?
With due respect, sir, the propane tank enclosure needs to meet NFPA 58 regulations, and they may not be able to enclose the tanks and may have to bury the tank.
Okay, that's,
Yeah, the previous owner had the tanks buried, and about 2 months before the Grelitzers bought the house, they dug up the tank for whatever the reason, and
That's what
yeah, but they did dig up the
Right,
tank.
right, but that's-
There were no tanks above
yeah,
ground,
once again, tank type and location
so they can rebury it, I
is-
suppose.
is really, again, not our purview, it's something
You know,
that's goes to the building department.
We welcome talking with the Grelitzers.
So why don't we just come to an end right now.
Okay.
We're gonna postpone this application until next month. The Grelitzes are going to amend their application to show the pergola. They're going to research the facts of whether or not we need approval on those tanks being enclosed rather than exposed. The fire code, et cetera, has to be addressed on that regard. And in the interim, in the interest of neighborly cooperation, we hope the neighbors will get together and discuss their concerns together and come to some agreement as to what, if any, modifications they're willing to do, or the other side willing to accept.
We thank the Grelitzers for clarifying when the trees are coming down.
Good.
That a screen would be put in. There was some confusion because there was no screen on the original plan.
Okay, now we went all through that already, okay. So, Mr. Counsel,
Yes.
what do we need now to create this adjournment till next meeting? We're all set, we did enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, public comment hasn't been closed, right?
No, we have not closed the public comment, and we will not until the next meeting.
Then I think we're fine.
Okay, so we will adjourn this application to our next meeting, when all the new information will be presented to us in a proper format, and with the hope and expectation that the neighbors will be able to have a longer and in-depth conversation about their wants and needs, and they will come to some terms. On that note, we'll see you all next time. Okay, we have one other item on our agenda, and it's the approval of the March 26th, 2025 meeting minutes. I will move to approve the minutes as presented to us.
Second the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Lauren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Daly.
Aye.
So approved. Chairman is in order, I move we adjourn.